Hello everybody and welcome to the DrivingMaul Let's Talk Lions Test 15. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, and I've been asked by a whole bunch of people as to who my Test 15 are. And you know what? There's no point doing a Test 15 if you don't do a Test 23. You need your finishers and all of that kind of gubbins. So I'm going to run through who I think will be in the Test 15. Now I'm doing this before the Crusaders Lions game. This is way too early in the series really to be doing this, because some players haven't even started yet or haven't even played yet. So this is going out on a limb on some areas, is my expectation, and I do not think this will be the actual one. I think there'll be changes between now and then. Obviously there'll be injuries, and also team players will play themselves in or out of form. So, but here is my best guess. Here we are, 2 weeks away from the first test. So let's start up front. This weekend we have Mako Vinopola, Jamie George and Kyle Forlorn as the starting front row against the Crusaders. And a lot of people have been talking about this team against the Crusaders as being the first step towards that test side. And I think it's quite right that we'll have Mako and Furlong will be starting. I'm not sure if Jamie George will be the starting hooker or whether he'll be on the bench. But I think it's going to be him and Ken Owens after Rory Brest's brain fade at the end of, or mess up at the end of the Blues game with that line out. So at the moment I think Ken Owens will probably start with Jamie George on the bench. But those two I think could switch round. As I say, I think it's going to be Mako and Ty or Furlong as the two props. I've been impressed by Kyle Sinclair in that first game. I thought he was trying to do a lot of stuff. And we saw him around the park being very busy. So I think he will get the nod on the bench ahead of Jack McGrath. And on the, not ahead of Jack McGrath, wrong way around, ahead of Dan Cole. And then on the other side, I think we're going to see Jack McGrath ahead of Joe Marler. But we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Moving into the second row. So this weekend we have Owen Jones and George Cruis as the starting locks. Sorry, I'm running this from memory. I should really have brought up the team, shouldn't I? I think George Cruis will definitely start. I was a bit disappointed by Owen Jones in the opening game. I think he needs a big game here. Clearly, Warren Gatland does rate him, and clearly he has been a very good player, but I'm not sure he's actually at his best at the moment. So I think he's playing for his test place. Laws and Itoje had a good game last weekend, and with Itoje coming into the bench, I think we could start off with Itoje and Cruis in the engine room. For that bench place, I think I would be surprised if Alwyn Jones isn't somewhere in the match day 23, and he might be the experienced guy to come off the bench. Otherwise, I think Courtney Laws has put his hand up ahead of Ian Henderson. Coming into the back row, Toby Faletau obviously will start at 8, and it's really the question of who gets to start alongside him. O'Brien and Umani get to have a go this weekend, but I think it's hard to look past Warburton really starting at 7, so that he'll be starting alongside him. And then 6, I think really it's between Moriarty and CJ Stander, and it's whether CJ Stander becomes the backup 8 and basically plays in the midweek side, or whether he gets that opportunity at 6. Really, I would like to see CJ Stander there, with probably Moriarty coming off the bench to wreck it during when players are getting tired. But Amani and O'Brien obviously have their go this weekend. I've not really seen much of them so far. So yeah, I'm discounting Tipperick and Haskell at this point. Going to scrum halves, clearly it's going to be Conor Murray starting, and I think Rhys Webb off the bench. I think that's a good way of doing it, having Conor Murray's better kicking to start off the game with that structure, and then Webb sniping when we get when things sort of break up a little bit, but there's more space around there. I found Rhys Webb was far too telegraphed with his box kicks at the Blues game, and too slow in getting in position and taking them. So yeah, I think we're better off with Webb coming in off the bench. Going to fly half, Sexton's not been playing great, so as long as Farrell can get the right combination with Murray, Farrell is going to get that starting spot with Sexton on the bench. With Dan Biggar now having that concussion and missing this game, and he should miss the next game at least. I can't see him forcing his way into the Test side, having to miss 2 games along the way. Personally, I think Dan Biggar should be going home at this point, and they shouldn't be talking about rushing him back from a head injury assessment and return to play protocols. That's a personal view, and I know that's definitely got a ringing endorsement by a lot of people on Twitter when I made it. I think they should really be calling up a replacement. But yes, at the moment it's Farrell and then Sexton on the bench for me. But it's going to come down. Pre-tour, I was very much for Murray, Sexton, Henshaw as being having that combination being great and having that with the players, the understanding between them. But they've not really, both Sexton and Henshaw really haven't hit it off so far. And maybe that is getting used to the combinations, I'm not sure. But so far Farrell has looked better. Moving into the centres, now Tio has played himself in by not playing, kind of thing. He's obviously getting a shot now. His better understanding with Farrell, as they've both come from the England camp. I mean, they've not played lots of games together, but at least they've trained more together than most of the other team, than Henshaw and Farrell will have done. And Henshaw not having a great showing so far has kind of played Tio into the side here. So depending on, let's see how he goes against the Crusaders, but at the moment he looks like the front runner for the number 12 shirt. For the number 13 shirt, we've got Jamie Joseph, Jared Payne, and also Elliot Daly, and then the man who gets to start this weekend, which is Jonathan Davis. I didn't think Jonathan Davis should have been picked for this tour, but then since he's been picked, he's been playing a lot better. It seems like that's really galvanised him, or he's just peaking at the right time. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes. Personally, I don't rate his passing, and I think it means that you cut off the outside backs. But if he's got that going, then great. Again, another player that clearly Gatland rates. He dropped Bod to play Jonathan Davis in the last Lions Test series. And if Jonathan Davis is coming back to something like his best, you've got to say Gatland will probably go with him. Personally, I'd be happier with probably Jonathan Joseph or an Elliot Daly, a bit more pace kind of in there. But I think I think Gats will probably go down the Jonathan Davis route if he's playing well. Moving out to the wings, George North hasn't started yet. He's starting this weekend. And as long as he shows some form, he's going to be an automatic shoe-in. Again, he's another one of Gatland's players on one wing. And then the big question is who goes on the other wing. Jack Nowell obviously didn't have a great game against the Blues and got caught out a couple of times. Personally, I think that was more down to the structures than it was down to his individual play. But it unfortunately didn't look good for him. I don't think the Lions have got... I think the Lions were pulling in too much and leaving him with 2 players or with too much to do out wide. But it didn't look good, did it? Seymour we didn't really see much of during the first game, but Anthony Watson did show well. Obviously, Liam Williams is the player that's got the shirt for this weekend. After those 2 takeouts in the air, I think he really needs a good game. A lot of New Zealand players will be jumping like that, and he has to learn how to time it, because otherwise he is going to be a yellow card machine in those situations. That's why I probably wouldn't put Elliot Daly out on the wing, because he showed against Argentina that, yes, the wing isn't really his normal position, and that's the one area where he can get caught out. And that's one area that will be tested a lot in this tour. So I'm not sold on Liam Williams at the moment. I think in some ways Anthony Watson is the form player, should come in. Personally, being an extra Chiefs fan, I'd love to see Nowell get another chance and stamp his authority on that role. Finally, we have at fullback. It's between Hogg and Halfpenny, really. Hogg needs a good showing after not having a good game in the opening one, and Halfpenny playing well against the Blues. Again, Halfpenny is another Gatland player, so but Hogg would still be my starting 15. Just he can offer some, when he's on form anyway. His breaks, his attacking into the line is wonderful, and I'd love to see him there. But he needs a big game. Not necessarily a big game, but he's a solid game against the Crusaders to prove that it was just he just had an off night on the opening weekend. So personally, I would have Hogg starting at 15, and then that leaves 1 bench place left. Someone like Elliot Daly does fit into that role very well. He can play wing, he can play centre, he can play fullback, so he covers a lot of positions. And then if you've got Farrell, he can also obviously move out to 12 if the 12 gets injured. But it depends what Gatland's looking to bring off the bench, and he might look at like a Liam Williams in that kind of role. Personally, I say I would probably go for Elliot Daly. So that's my Lions Test 23. I expect it's going to get altered as we go along. Perhaps I'll do another one of these next Saturday before the Maori game, and we'll see how that goes. It's really kind of interesting that this game, the Crusaders, is being considered the fourth test. Prior to the tour, a lot of people were talking about the Maoris being the unofficial fourth test. So maybe this is the fifth test, and half the games are test matches in this tour. There you go. Thank you very much for watching. Do share it and let me know your thoughts on a Test 23. Don't forget to sign up for my newsletter, link above on Twitter, down below on YouTube, and give it the old thumbs up on YouTube. It really helps get the word out there and let more people know about me. So thank you very much. I will be back. I will be live after the game on YouTube with the Crusaders, giving a post-game reaction with Cornflake, who is another YouTuber, rugby YouTuber, great guy, and also Russ from the Maul Over podcast, a great podcast that I listen to every week. So thank you guys, and catch you all later.